Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to the Golfing Greenkeeper podcast. I'm Steve Smith, your host, and I'm so excited to be bringing to you yet again another segment of Australian Turf Analysis Keeper of the Greens. And might I just say, this could well be one of the most exciting interviews that I've been able to bring to you, and one of the most intriguing. Without further ado, this is episode number 41. Now, before we get into Keeper of the Greens, I have a message from my partners. Keeper of the Greens is brought to you by Australian Turf Analysis. As a greenkeeper, as a golf course superintendent, have you ever wanted the ability to see into the future of your turf's health and easily share it with stakeholders and team members? I know it would have made my life so much easier when I was super, that's for sure. Australian Turf Analysis has state-of-the-art drone technology that can see into your turf's future health with a flight over your course to show you just what is happening before it's visible to the trained eye of a greenkeeper. Now, you're probably wondering how they can show you the health of your turf. Well, their drone has a multispectral lens attached to it, along with super intelligent software that measures and calculates turf stress and correlates the data for you in an easy-to-read graphic map along with other formats available. When we think new technology, we often think many dollar signs. I know that's probably the first thing that bounces into your head, but I can assure you that once you get a quote from John to survey your course, you will be searching for reasons why you shouldn't use this technology to help you maintain your golf course. It really is that affordable, guys. John Legg at Australian Turf Analysis is your certified and fully insured drone pilot to make sure all those paperwork bases are covered so you don't have to worry no matter where you are in Australia. Now for the good part, for every one of you greenkeepers and superintendents that are listening, for any new first-time customers, Australian Turf Analysis are offering a 10% discount on your first service if you mention this podcast, the Golfing Greenkeeper podcast, where you heard it. Head over now to australianturfanalysis.com to get in touch with John for a quote. And trust me, you want to go and do it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back once again to Keeper of the Green segment of the Golfing Greenkeeper podcast. I do thank you for joining me, and I've got to say, you are in for a real treat. I'm so pumped about bringing this interview to you. It's been something in the back of my mind for a while. And, you know, we don't know where my next stop is going to be. I don't tell you beforehand. So wherever we stop is just going to be a surprise. And in the country today, we're going straight down to Victoria, into Melbourne, to Sandy Links, the new redesigned Sandy Links Golf Club. And we're chatting with Superintendent Geraldine O'Callaghan. Gerri, how are you going? And thank you for joining the podcast.
Oh, thanks very much for having me, Steve. I've been in the dam today, just fixing up the pumps, and so it's been a great day. 34 degrees, and I've got to swim, so it's not bad for work.
A little bit of relief from the temperatures down there in Melbourne, which is one of those random positives from a negative, I suppose, you're going to get from time to time as a greenkeeper. You get to stick your hands and head in the water, maybe if you have to. It's not good in winter where I'm from in the Blue Mountains when it's down to -5 or whatever. You just cringe. But good to see from a bad. Look, that's not a good way to start your day. It's a start of the week, and you've got to do that. That's that makes it already for a long week.
Oh, absolutely. But you're used to it here in Melbourne because, you get those 4 seasons in a day. So anytime you get to jump at the dam and have a quick swim, and then, it's like when you're hand watering, you give the green a bit, you give yourself a bit. So
you do. You've got to be out there taking it all in. So look, thank you again for coming on. I'm really excited to dive into your story, into your greenkeeping history, and how you got to where you are today. And then we're going to talk about the brand new version of Sandringham Golf Club, Sandy Links, which I'm really excited to bring to everyone as well. But first, if you've not listened to it before, if you're listening out there and you don't know, we start off with Steve's Super 7, which is a quick fire 7 questions. Now, Gerri, I don't know if you've heard this from before, but are you ready to go? They're coming in blind. So
I'm ready to go.
Rapid responses. Okay, you ready?
Ready to go.
Okay, number 1, sunrise or sunset?
Sunrise.
Sunrise. Okay, we like that. Number 2, course appearance questions. Stripes or no stripes on fairways?
No stripes.
No stripes. Okay, well, no stripes down there in Melbourne, which isn't uncommon. Now, number 3, preferred look on a golf course, lean or lush?
I like the lean look.
Is it a Sandbelt thing? I know I've been down there and been fortunate to see it. Is that I don't know if there are courses down there that are highly watered. That's a real Melbourne Sandbelt look, isn't it?
It is indeed. I think it's a links look. Like I've been fortunate enough to travel to Scotland, and I just love that whole, brown, that your turf surfaces and your playing surfaces really stand out. And then you've got the rough, and it just does whatever it wants. So
yeah, it is a beautiful look. I've got to admit. All right, number 4, favorite grass types on greens. Favorite putting surface. Bent,
definitely.
Well, before okay, you've already got this, so I'm not even going to say what the options are. You tell me, because you've already got it. What is it?
Definitely bent grass for me.
All right, that's good. I was hoping you were going to say that. We'll go there first. Oh, good. I love the enthusiasm. This is exciting. Number 5, where do you prefer to maintain a golf course? Cool climate or warm climate?
Oh, that's a good question. They both have their advantages and disadvantages, but I like the challenge of climate.
Cool climate. Very good. Very good.
Yes.
Number 6, favorite bunker style. St Andrews, Kingston Heath, or Augusta National?
Kingston Heath, definitely.
Yeah. I think that's a common theme. And number 7, to finish off, if you could visit one golf course anywhere on the planet tomorrow, which one would it be for you, Gerri?
Oh, these are cracking questions. I love it. I think it'd have to be Augusta National.
And I love that answer. And I often get, this is really strange, and we talk about one thing's taste and one thing sort of an overall sort of appearance of a course and how it's maintained, certainly from a superintendent's greenkeeping perspective. I'm talking to Australian supers, and there's an for Kingston Heath I've found styles, but a lot of people are saying they would love to visit Augusta. And I really find that interesting when they skip it with the bunker style. So I don't know why the reason is there. I would love to see Augusta, but I've got other ones that I think I'll put in front of it. There you go.
Yeah, well, the only reason I'd love to go and see Augusta is I don't think you appreciate the golf course on the TV, because it would be undulating so much different in real life to what it actually looks on the TV. So that's just my perception.
And I agree with you there, because they often talk about how incredibly steep some of, like down the 10th fairway, for example, when you see the balls just run, that there's
Exactly.
such a steep hill downhill to other areas of the golf course. And then, of course, for the other side, from a greenkeeping point of view, I like there's a bit of that tech side of things, and they've got that sub-air system and these heating platforms, and that's a whole different ballgame.
Absolutely. It's all this stuff that's out of this world, and you just think, what the heck is going on under the ground? So
hard to get your head around. But look, thank you so much for doing the Steve Super 7 questions. That's a bit of fun, Gerri. So look, I appreciate it. And now look, we moved from the fun. Now we're going to go into a bit of Gerri. How much do you like telling us? I don't know how many people you've told your story. I'm really intrigued. Because look, there's no point glossing over it. You're one of very few superintendents of golf courses in Australia that's female. I don't know if you know. I'm sure you probably do know of others. Do you know how many others there are? Do you know if there are any?
I believe there's maybe 4 of us. So there's not many at all.
Could be some sort of alumni there, maybe. Could you I don't know.
We'll have to get some sort of club happening. So
why not? But it's something it's very one-sided. We know that it's male-dominated industry, and let's just dive into your background. Let's find out how you came to be at Sandy Links today. So let's start. How did you get into greenkeeping? Because already you're in a very, very small minority. So how did it happen for you, Gerri?
Well, it happened. I've been at Sandy Links, but also at Royal Melbourne now for nearly 10 years, and I started a bit later in life. I'm 44 years old now. I don't mind telling people that. And
that's different. Most women will never don't like telling us. Most guys.
No, that's all good. That probably makes me different as well. But I grew up in the country, back up in Kahuna in the northern country on the Murray River, and grew up on a farm. So I just love being in the outdoors and that whole agriculture life and things like that. And then then I had a few, different things happen to me in life, and I lost both my parents. So I went off traveling and did a bit of soul searching for about 6 years on and off. And it was in my late 20s when I arrived back in Melbourne, and I thought, oh, I've got to get a real job and, need to sort of get responsible in life. And, I've always loved golf. That was one thing for me when I was a kid. I learned how to play golf, obviously up in the country. And yeah, it's always been, and I'm a pretty competitive person just in general, and love sport in general. Love the AFL, love water sports, all that sort of stuff. So I'm a pretty easygoing person, but sometimes get a little bit of that white line fever. But that's another story. And so my sister was living in Geelong at the time, and I moved down there. And a friend of mine said to me, I know a guy out at Sandhurst Golf Club out towards Frankston North there, and he said, oh, look, take your resume and I'll give him a call and tell him you're coming and just have a chat and see if they've got any vacancies. And I said, oh, that'd be great, and never really thought about doing greenkeeping. I love gardening and I love just being outdoors and all that. So it was probably something I probably could have done earlier in life, but, things happen for reasons. And I ended up going out to have a coffee with Mark Brayshaw, was the PGA at the time. And he said, we were just chatting away, and it just so happened that his wife, I worked at a summer camp in America, and as a camp counsellor, and his wife actually worked there as well. And so that was my first connection with him, other than my friend knowing him. And it sort of just blossomed from there. We got along really well, and he said, look, I'll give your resume to Peter Jans, who was the superintendent at the time at Sandhurst. And about a week later, I got a call and said, look, come and do a trial, and we'll see how you go. And I just said, look, I'm willing to try anything and give anything a go, and I just love golf, and we'll see what happens. And did a week's trial out there and absolutely loved it. And actually at the time there was 3 other girls working there, so it was 4 of us in total when I started working there, which again was relatively a new thing to me because I knew it was a male dominated industry. So went got a just a greenkeeping job at Sandhurst, and went on and did my adult apprenticeship at the time was called Northern Melbourne Institute of Technology up there at Fairfield, which is now Melbourne Polytechnic, and just loved it. Did the night school and learnt sort of all the other things other than the practical side of greenkeeping, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I've always been very interested in how things work, and not just motors and things like that, but the dynamics of a golf course and the maintenance and all that sort of thing. So it all pretty much started must be about 16 years ago now, 16 years ago out there at Sandhurst, and spent about 5.5 years out there. And they just started maintaining the Champions course, because there's 36 holes at the Sandhurst facility, and they had the North course, which was fairly established, and they built the Champions course. And so I went straight onto that maintenance team, which was fantastic. A great group of guys, all of which I'm still friends with today. And that's the other side of the greenkeeping industry. It's very small, and you have mates for life. So
that's something that I often do talk about, is that sense of camaraderie. You're part of a team, especially doing your apprenticeship there. Like you said, it was a mature age gig for you to get all that training and education under your belt. And you mentioned there were 3 other females in the team. Do you think that was helpful for you, not being the only female in the team? I don't know what that's like. I suppose I'm trying to understand your journey in this way, and hopefully others will be keen to understand how you came through that. Did you think that was a little bit helpful as well, having other women in the greenkeeping team?
I think it definitely was. It made the transition a lot easier into that, and it's still physical work today, into that physical work style. And even to this day, like a lot of people you work with, sometimes they don't play golf. They're very sports orientated. And at the time, the girls, they'd play golf every now and then, but I brought to the table, I think, my experience and my knowledge of the game, and I taught them so much about golf, and they taught me about greenkeeping. So it was very much a double-edged sword, that I can teach a lot of people about, the golf side of things, and then they could teach me about the greenkeeping. And I've always found that a great advantage, I think, for myself, because I could stand there all day and talk about grass now, but I could also talk about courses I've visited or things that I've done with my golfing career as well. And I think to amalgamate those two things and be able to do what I love and have a passion for what I love doing, it's certainly not a job. So
that's very good to hear that, like you said, you can bring that golf side of it to the table, and not everyone, as I've learned through this, and my audience have obviously heard through talking to different supers, there's a lot of people that get into greenkeeping not from golf, which probably I got in through golf. You with a background of golf as well was sort of part of your interest, but there are plenty of people that don't come from golf side of things, that they might just have the opportunity for work or whatever it is, and they don't have that sort of that sporting competitive side of the background. I know I do, and I think that adds an element of fun. But my assistant, when I was at Katoomba, who's one of my best mates, is not a golfer in the slightest, and we went on to do our time at building Katoomba up as a team, and he'll play once a year, maybe at best. Not interested, doesn't really care for it, but enjoys a hit every now and then. So, like you say, you've got that. You can bring that to the team, and it's really good to hear that side too, because I love hearing a background of golf, because I just love it. It's everything that I know and I totally enjoy as well. So your time at Sandhurst, your time at Sandhurst was, how long were you there doing your training education as a mature, I suppose, apprentice? Is that a normal time frame? Is it like 3 or 4 years, or is it accelerated?
It's accelerated, so it's night school for 12 months. And I was lucky enough, there was another guy that was a mature age, and so we actually travelled up and down, because Sandhurst is about a 40-minute drive from the teaching facility. So, like, we'd get in the car every Monday night and head up there. So it was great to have a study buddy, as I used to say, and we'd go up there and it was, like late afternoons you'd go. And I found I did my adult apprenticeship, which I just said was 12 months. And then while I was still studying, when you get a bit older and you get out of that whole study technique, I thought, no, I'll keep going. And I did my diploma, which then was another 3 years. But in that 12-month adult apprenticeship, I really found that, you had people that wanted to learn, not taking anything away about the young fellas that go to the TAFE and that these days, but, everyone was there. So, it was because it was quite an accelerated program. You were there to learn. So you spent, the 3 or 4 hours at that night school, and you learnt so much, and we jam-packed so much in. And I think everyone, you'd go there, and I guess it's like every time you go to a turf conference or something, everyone would be spraying a different product one week, and, we got these results. Oh, we sprayed it last week and we did this. And so, it was such a collaboration, I think. And we had, a guy from a horse racing background. We had some guys from bowling greens, and they all weren't golf courses. So I found that fascinating as well, because there's so many surfaces that are under the umbrella of turf recreation. You don't actually realise that either until you start studying. So for me, it was a great, I think, insider to just, understand how many different types of grass there was, and how many different surfaces. Horse racing, they've got to have cushioning, whereas golf greens, you want them hard and fast, some people. And so it's all that sort of learning, I think, that really made, I guess, my hunger even more to become a greenkeeper.
I like that explanation too, because this is a golf podcast, and we often talk about that this is based around golf courses and greenkeepers on golf. But as I've spoken to people, and I can talk about Dave Rogers from Bathurst Golf Club, who I spoke to as part of this segment a little while ago, he bounced in and out of different golf courses, and there were others that have bounced in. Paul McLean from Sanctuary Cove went to bowls and different other places, and you can go to different types of sports turf as well.
Correct.
And which is really interesting. And I think these are good selling points for people who are considering whether sports turf and greenkeeping is something to get into. And it's why I love talking about it as a job opportunity, as a lifestyle opportunity, because you can travel the country and the world getting work in all sorts of different places, but also all sorts of different sports turf industries, be it football or horse racing, like you say, or golf or bowls. There's so many different opportunities, and it's quite broad and interesting hearing you talk about the different types of services and that the others that you were studying with were part of. So really interesting.
Yeah, it was fascinating, as I said. And even, today at Royal Melbourne, we actually have a young guy who's a state-level baseball player. And so, you don't even think about a baseball field, that's got turf on it. So, everyone has an interest, and the interest can be that one core is the grass that you play on. So I think it's fascinating, and like you've probably said many times in your podcast, and we'll say again probably in this podcast, everybody knows everybody. So it's all about you carrying yourself well, and you get a job at St Andrews maybe at the 150th year this year for that 3 months because you're passionate about what you do, and you can travel the world. You're absolutely right.
Exactly. Okay, so tell us more. After Sandhurst, or how long did you stay at Sandhurst for, and then where did you go from there?
I was at Sandhurst for about 5 years, and so I had a senior role. I didn't have any titles or that, but I was one of the senior people there when I decided to leave. And I actually saw an advert in the on the greenkeeping side, and it was for assistant superintendent at Sandringham Golf Links. And at the time, it was early 2011, so my first President's Cup. It was Royal Melbourne's second President's Cup at that point, and I thought, and I'd heard whispers that Royal Melbourne were leasing Sandringham and everything like this, and it was going to be maybe somewhere to be in the future. And of course, all I really wanted to do was get an interview and meet Richard Forsyth, the guru, Mr. Royal Melbourne now, and one of those things. We call him the chief, but it's all good. So. Yeah, one of those things. I just put my application in and thought, if I get an interview, fantastic. If I don't, I'll just keep working hard and keep sort of putting, the miles on the road. So anyway, I ended up with an interview, and I'll never forget the day. It was in what's now the old Sandringham. It's the cart shed now for the new carts. But we sat down on the couch, and Andrew Wells was the superintendent at the time, and then Richard sort of swanned in towards the end. And when I was working out at Sandhurst, we were doing a lot of irrigation, and the irrigation contractor said, right, if you get an interview with Richard, you've got to tell him that you barrack for Essendon, the Mighty Bombers, because he barracks for Essendon, which I happen to anyway. That's my football team. So
there you go.
So yeah, somewhere in the interview it got brought up that I just love sport in general. So who do you barrack for, and rah rah rah, and so goes the story that's why I got the job. But I say it was it was the charisma, sitting on the couch having a chat, all that sort of stuff. And so yeah, ended up receiving the role there as the assistant superintendent. And at the time there was only 3 full-time staff. So I went from a team of 2, obviously a 36-hole facility at Sandhurst. We had about 20 to 25 staff. So I went from quite a big team back to a small team. And the challenges at that time, we didn't have all the resources we have these days from Royal Melbourne. So you had to fix your own machines and make sure everything was going right. And, it was just such a different environment. But I actually had the foresight, I think, at that time to just see that it could be something for the future. And if it didn't, I had a assistant's role, and I thought I'm going to learn as much as I can here. If it means that it's a bit of a sideways step in my career or a step up, whatever comes my way. And I was there for just on 2 years, and a guy over here at Royal Melbourne moved on to another course, so an opening came up, and Richard said he came over, and again, it's all these things you never forget. I was out on we had a tractor with the gangs mowers on the fairway on the back, and I was racing around on that. And Richard, I saw him coming, and it was usually, oh shit, what have I done wrong? Or he's coming to tell me something good. So luckily that day it was something good. I apologise for the swearing. And
no apology required. I love it. Let it out.
So he comes driving up, and he said, Andrew's moved on, and there's now just a qualified position opening at Royal Melbourne. Would you like it? And I don't know if I jumped off the tractor or I can't exactly remember, but I said, that'd be fantastic, Richard. That's just amazing. And tried to keep calm and keep pretty cool. And as soon as he drove away, of course, did that whole dancing in the air and stuff. So, yeah.
The fist pumping, and then you can just let it out after that. It's like composure, hold composure, and then let's just tell everyone. I'll scream it to the clouds. I've got a gig at RM. How good's that?
Absolutely, and that you sort of, I guess, you make decisions in your life, and you take that one big step, and in the hope that things pan out for you, and yeah, it did in that sense, and moved across to Royal, and I was out on the East Course under the guidance at that time of John Mann and Craig Anthony. That was the super and the assistant out here, and again came from little old Sandy with 3 and into Royal Melbourne staff and the big team there, and it's
so I'm just going to ask you to just I can sense this story is I'm just captivated. I haven't even had time to think about what I want to ask you. I'm loving the whole trip, and I'm loving this trajectory of your career, and I'm going to ask you a question in the middle of that part of the story. So you talked about a big team, 2 courses at Sandhurst. Then you take the opportunity in and around, basically you're encapsulated by some of the best golf courses in the world, certainly in the country, being based at Sandringham, and you've got RM and Victoria, and they're all around you. And then but it's this real, because I come from a golf club or a couple of golf clubs and golf courses where they were small teams. I didn't have the opportunity to get a gig at a large facility with high expectations and all the things that go with that. We had small teams, and at one point there was 2 of us looking after 18 holes.
Wow.
Did you find going into Sandringham, did you find that, and then, because it's really, you must be the jack of all trades. Really, it's really hands-on in small teams, isn't it? You're the mechanic at times, and you're the irrigation tech, you're the greenkeeper, you're the OH&S manager. You've got to cover all these things. Did you find it not only, I suppose, challenging? Did you revel in that challenging? And was it a grounding of sorts to go and appreciate what you had at Sandhurst?
Absolutely. And I mean, I always say to people, and I hate, you hate talking about yourself and that, but I'm a very engaging and very approachable person. And you're exactly right. Every day you've got a different hat on. One day you might be changing holes, the next day you're digging a hole for drainage, or the next day you're digging a hole for irrigation, and or you might be putting course furniture together. You're a carpenter, you're everything when you're in a small team. And to go from that to like a big team where you've got a mechanic on hand and all that sort of thing, you just appreciate everything that you've been given. And even when I first started at Sandringham, like I just said, we had the old gangs mower, and then we eventually got a fairway mower from Royal Melbourne that was like going to go to the trash heap, whatever. And it was just like, oh my God, it's Christmas. Or when you get, you've got the old sprayer that's just about gone out the window, and then you get the second-hand sprayer. So it's all about, I think, juggling that whole what your life experience is, and I always say I brought to the table, 28 years of every other life experience before I was a greenkeeper. And you've got to be able to be adaptable. And, something pops up, like today, I was talking to you earlier about our pumps went down, so I had to jump in the dam and go and fix them. So, you've sort of always got to be that one step ahead when you're in a small team, and try and, you don't want to always be negative and say, oh, this could happen, but you've got to sort of be thinking in the back of your mind that, you might have to stop at lunchtime and tweak the blades on the mower and stuff like that. So it's certainly a grounding experience, I think, when you work in a small team, or you come from a big team to a small team, or vice versa, and then you go into another big team. And I love it. I'm a very team-orientated person. So when I first went to Sandringham, I knew, being connected to Royal Melbourne, we do social things with them and that. But, there's such a small, tight-knit team. Like, I loved it because we all relied on each other. And, the super had to be out mowing greens, or the super had to be out hand watering. And I learnt a lot from that as well, that, I wanted to be that person too, that, if everyone is out on a Friday afternoon, I'm going to be out there with them, so we all knock off on time and stuff like that. So I think
absolutely, it's I find as well, as in a small team, you can't be too precious either. It really is, you've got to be hands on. You can't be above any task. It's about getting the job done. At the end of the day, and you can call it ego, you can call it what you like, in my opinion, but that's really what drives you needing to deliver, or be part of delivering the product for people to play golf.
Absolutely. And when I first went back in the day, when I first went to Sandringham, totally different environment. Obviously, it was a public course. The previous owners before Royal Melbourne leased it, wanted it to look green and this and that. So, there's always these practices that, if you want to have hard, fast greens, you don't fertilise, you don't water too much, and all these things. So, it was a different environment for me, because Sandhurst was quite linksy, cooch fairways, bent grass greens and stuff like that. And, you come to Sandringham where it was Kikuya, Poa, common cooch, all this sort of thing. So, again, another learning curve for me, just to sort of maintain, because that's all we could do with 3 staff, was maintain. It was never really any big projects. And then, of course, now with all the redevelopment and everything, it's been an absolute, fantastic facility. So,
absolutely. So you've had this grounding of sorts at Sandringham, and you get the opportunity under Richard Forsyth to be part of the team on the East Course. Tell us how that felt, going from then a small team now to what is one of the most incredible golf courses, like I said, on the planet, and into an environment that just it oozes this incredible aura about Royal Melbourne. I've been fortunate to be there. I've been fortunate to meet Richard, and he's been able to show me around both golf courses. Tell us what it was like then to get that gig in the team and learn from some of the best and people like John Mann. They're now superintendents around in the Sandbelt. So tell us what that was like for those next few years, I imagine.
Just amazing. And you talk about Royal Melbourne, and for me, I think the word is professionalism. And I wanted to be part of that team that just goes above and beyond and does everything to the nth degree. And, just even the way, our lifting of greens programs, all these things that just fascinated me, that, everyone was on the same page. Everybody wanted to do the best job they could. And for me, being part of a team like that and to learn from people like that, there was people that have been here for 20, 30 years. And then there was a lot of people that had only been here under 10 years. And, so there were so many different levels of experience. We had a guy who used to be a super in WA, and then he came here and he was part of the team. And, you had all these experiences. And for me, little old me coming from Sandringham, and, I'd met most of the guys and stuff, and they were all so welcoming. They're like, oh, we can't wait to work with you and all that. And of course, because, I was a golfer, a few of us would go out, once a week or once every 2 weeks and have a few holes after work and stuff. And so they really did include me, and they really welcomed me so much. And I just got out there every day and I tried to do my best and learn and just keep doing my best. And I think, it's a bit of a motto for me in life, I guess, is that, I just get in and I have a go and I try to do the best. And if I can't do the best, well then, if the best is not good enough for whoever, then I go, okay, well, that's my best and that's all I can do. And, I think if you just keep trying and you just keep doing, like I said before, what you love, you end up just, creating this environment. And as I said, it's just such a professional culture here, and everybody just wants to do their best. And like, it's sort of, I guess it's made me, become a better person as well and a better manager now. And you end up, getting a bit more responsibility and things like that. So I think, working under John and Craig and also, of course, Richard and Paul Thomas on the West, you work under everybody, but obviously you've got your two separate teams. And I love the East Coast now. I always used to call it my baby because I'm fortunate. I'm fortunate now after I was, I think it was about 3 or 4 years. Oh, it was about 18 months, I think it was. John Mann, as you just spoke, he moved on and I ended up getting the foreman's role out on the East Coast under Craig Anthony. And right. So I was fortunate enough there now, which I still now, I live on the 14th hole on the East Coast. So my dog and I every night.
Stop it. Stop it.
My dog, beautiful golden retriever, well, he's the inspector of the East Coast. We go and inspect it, every other night. So
that is so unfair. I can't.
You're
that's
so
not
jealous
okay. Now, I'm going to invite myself down for a barbecue when I'm in Melbourne. Just saying. So when you get a text message, you'll know why.
I've got a spare room in the Royal Melbourne on Hilton, so but it's one of these things. I think a lot of people say it's all because of hard work, and I just say I'm just so privileged that I've had the opportunities that I've had. And someone once said to me, well, if the door opens, you've got to knock it down. And every time I was given an opportunity, I thought, okay, this has come for a reason, and I've just really taken it by the teeth. And I learned so much from Craig, and just then just becoming a manager. When you do your diploma studies, of course, part of it is the management, and I was fascinated by that. As I said earlier, I'm very much a people person, and I love to bring people along with me on the journey. And now being a superintendent, but also when I was the foreman on the East Coast, I was so overwhelmed by that. I'm changing people's lives by, giving them knowledge and training them, and hopefully, getting them as enthusiastic as I am about what I do. And I think that's a huge part of what I love about being a manager, is then you see people progress and people that you've had even just a small impact on their lives that they'll take away. And again, I've always said, if people say, oh, they've worked under Gerri, I will employ them, then that's such a huge honour for when you have people go and they progress in the industry.
Absolutely. And you mentioned there, and it's something that I don't often talk about, but I really, it stood out to me when my time had finished as my tenure as superintendent and Katoomba disappeared, sadly. I look back soon after that, and you reflect on life and things, and you're turning a page in your life when something like that happens. And I look back at the time, and I was talking to Chris, one of my best mates, who was superintendent, and who was my assistant superintendent, and we talked about the young people and the people that we gave a start to, who went on to be greenkeepers at other golf courses, or they took the part of that teamwork and what they'd learnt, and might have taken it to other industries if they moved on, and just being part of people's lives and giving people. I just love the thought of giving people a start and helping them begin their careers somewhere, because we went down the path of often employing younger people, and we had that opportunity to do so, and that was something that we got a real kick out of, as well as starting the working careers of young people. It's certainly in the Blue Mountains for us, which is great. It's a smaller community, and it was really good. And like you say, being able to do that, it's from a management perspective, is really good.
So rewarding, so rewarding.
Now, let's talk about your steps from the East Course at Royal Melbourne. When did you get over to, how did the move transition from Royal Melbourne to Sandy Links? Talk to us about that.
So there's always been, the foremans rotate, every few years around the courses, and we started the development over at Sandy Links, and the first 9 holes they'd done the grow in and all the preparation for that, and then the second 9 grow in came up and the shaping and everything, and I'd put my hand up a few months earlier. I said, look, if there's an opportunity that comes up, because I hadn't been exposed to that sort of side of it at that point. And,
so that's the construction side we're talking about, that establishment of the golf course and growing it in.
Yes, absolutely. And OCM, who were the designers of the new Sandy layout, they have a guy that comes in, and Nick, and he comes in and he roughly shapes everything, I guess you'd say. And then, of course, we come in and do the final shapings of where, the fescue will go and where the greens will go and things like that. So I was fascinated by all that, and I really, again, it was a bit like the meeting. I just wanted to meet Richard. I just wanted to drive the big Moxie truck because I've seen them. But that all happened eventually. But just that whole, I guess, growing something from the ground up and knowing that you drive past. I've shaped that tee, or I've helped shape that bunker, and for me, the rewarding experience of also being a greenkeeper is seeing people out playing and experiencing and having fun on what you've created. So. I put my hand up. I said, look, I'd love to go over there if the opportunity arises. And Richard was very keen on, everyone should get exposed to a bit of the construction side. So, I was very privileged to be a part of the second 9 construction and growing of the greens. And just fascinating how pretty much, it's a bare dirt, and then you put the irrigation in, then you put the seeding down, and the bunkers take shape. And, it's just an amazing experience. And to be part of it now, and all along, I was kind of like, oh, this place is going to be amazing. If this is going to be, the centre of the excellence of golf of Australia, it's going to be pumping and it's going to be booming. And I just had this vision of how amazing it was going to be. And, it's come to fruition, and the driving range and everything now is all in operation. And it's just such a busy place. And I was just blown away. Again, Nick Staff was the construction manager, he's actually now moved over to the East Course superintendent, because I obviously got his role. And but to work under him, he's an awesome guy. And you stand on a piece of land and you go, okay, well, we're going to create this, and this is where it's going to undulate, this is where it's going to mound, and this is where the irrigation's going. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
It's a pretty awesome process to be part of, isn't it? Like you said, you're giving rise to that. You're part of creating something that hopefully will be there for a long time to come, and so many people will enjoy. You're basically giving birth to a golf course, essentially. I was down, I can't remember when it was that I got down there, and it might have been 2019, might have even been 2018, that Richard had taken some time to show me the first 9 that was being constructed. And I got to learn a little bit about the idea of, like you said, it was the sort of going to be this home of golf, and with the Golf Australia and so on was also going to be there in time. You were there with that second 9 redevelopment, and then so what are we talking? Was it 2019 that you kind of would have been getting involved there? Is that right?
It was actually what are we now? 2022. Oh my gosh. The end of 2020. So I think it was about August 2020. I moved over there, and then so they opened the first, fully opened the first 9 in January 2020, and then the construction, everything else was going on, and then officially opened the second night in November 2020. So it was a big process, and so it's probably been nearly 2 years that have been at Sandringham as the foreman and now as the superintendent. So it's been.
So sorry to interrupt. Let's talk about. I'm curious to talk about that feeling, and I love to ask this question, and it is a question I will ask you as well. What was that feeling like? And tell us when that happened that you got the gig as superintendent. What was it like day one to walk into Sandy Links as the superintendent? Because it's a different feeling in the back of your mind. You know, the buck stops with you at the end of the day. You're part of a wonderful team, and you're leading a wonderful team, obviously, to do something incredible and continue to get Sandy Links up to where you want it to be, and everything that goes with that. What was that day one like, walking in and all of a sudden the eyes are all on you in a sense and you're leading?
Oh, it was an amazing feeling because, like you just said then, like this is your baby now. And, I'd work closely with Nick and, all the leading up to it. And that first day it was like, yeah, you're exactly right. It's like, okay, you need to be thinking about this. You need to be thinking about that. And with the whole facility, of course, it's not just a golf course. You've got the driving range. You've got, a fantastic putting course. And so there's so many dynamics to it. And for me, it was very much, right, I'm going to be on the ball. And I'm going to be thinking about everything. And I'm going to delegate. So my second in charge, Jack Lavery, he's my foreman over there. I'm like, right, you're going to be in charge of this area and I'll still oversee it. But, and it's all about that whole delegation and trusting you. You're exactly right. Trusting your team. And so I'm very, very privileged. And that first week, I think it was probably the whole first week was a bit of a high for me because, it was never really something that, being a woman, I guess you always doubt yourself. And I was never really thinking superintendent, I just wanted to be the best greenkeeper I could be. And, if that meant that I went on to bigger and better things, fantastic. And, I guess for me, it's been such a ride and to land such a great position right smack bang in the middle of the Sandbelt and to have such a great public facility, for me, it's just been unbelievable.
You know what's funny, and that's just I love hearing that deep drive within you to be part of that, to be leading that team and be part of something special. And that's what I always hear from superintendents, doesn't matter what level they're at. Once you hear them speak like you just did, it just shows you when you're standing there listening and you're taking in what you're saying or what another superintendent's saying, that's when you realize that they are good enough to do what they do. You have faith. I can stand here talking to you about it, and I have faith in you doing what you're there to do at Sandy Links because I can hear it in your voice. I can hear the passion behind it and that drive for leadership. And I say that with the utmost, 100% honesty. Because that's what I've spoken to enough superintendents, and I know quite a few people in the industry in various roles, but you can hear that in someone's voice and you just nod your head and you just go, yep, you've got it. You've got it. And the other thing I wanted to mention is hearing that story of your career coming to this point, and we haven't even spoken about the golf course yet, which I can't wait to talk about either. But it's something that stood in the back of my mind, and you just touched on, as a woman, you weren't sure if you were sort of going to go down that path of being superintendent or whatever it might be. I think through this whole story, at not any point did I think in the back of my mind that you've sort of had that different path potentially being a female in the greenkeeping industry, because I hear people talk about that difficulty potentially of, it's very one-sided, male-dominated. I'm sitting here listening to a greenkeeper work hard, go down the path with passion and do what you do to get to where you are today. And at no point did I go, you know what, that you've had those struggles, or you've just gone out there and just done, like what you said, you've done it the best you can. And along that way, been offered opportunities and gone, but you were offered those opportunities, I imagine, because people believed in you. They trusted you and they had confidence in you. And that doesn't happen unless you have qualities for that. And I think all those things stand out. Just hearing your story, it's you are a greenkeeper who stood tall, and now you're a superintendent and you've worked your way there. And it's bloody awesome to hear. I just think it's fantastic.
Thank you. And I quite often think back to my roots I grew up in a very small town of about 1,000 people, and my dad and mum were very hard workers. And I think it was instilled in me as a young age. And, that family value and that core value, being part of a team and things like that, and everyone looking out for themselves, because that's what growing up in a small town is. Everyone looks out for each other, and again, you do your best. And, whether it was playing footy, playing netball, playing golf, whatever it was, you just went out and did your best, because that's what you did in the country. You tried things, and you had to go at things. I think that's certainly held me in good stead in life. And I really appreciate everything you've just said, Ben. And then I like to think that, people don't just see me as, the woman greenkeeper. They do. And I say it a lot, because when you are the only woman in a team, you do stand out for good and bad reasons. But people see me as Gerri, the superintendent at Sandringham, because of where I've come from. And I think too, obviously along the way, like you said, I've just worked hard, and I've just always, maybe never had the end goal in sight, but just thought, I could get there one day, and just kept progressing along the way.
Oh, and I agree. I don't think not everyone has that plan and that target goal. There's certainly plenty of people that do, but I know I sort of, I'm speaking about myself in a sense that I wanted to one day, but I didn't know how or where. And I just worked at it, and I got there, and the opportunity arose. So, in a sense, you just did something similar. You worked hard, and the opportunities were available to you, or made available to you, like I said before. And people don't offer them if they don't have confidence in the person they're offering it to. So I think that in itself says plenty.
Yes,
I want to, no, not at all. I'm sure there's plenty of people that think along similar lines to me. I've got absolutely no doubt. Now, I want to get to Sandy Links Golf Course. This is something, along with your story, that I love to talk about in the superintendents, and where they work hard at, and what their passion is that they're looking after. And we know that it was the former Sandringham Golf Course, and it's now been redesigned by OCM, and I think Mike Cocking was the lead in that. And you've got this shiny new toy, in a sense, without diminishing what it is. It's a slightly different way to what it was as well. It's a lower par than what we often used to seeing. It's a par 65. It doesn't have any par fives on it. It's, this is something a little bit different that I think in, 15, 20 years ago, people would have thought, this is a stupid idea, don't go down that path. But we're starting to see that it's not a number that we should be focusing on in terms of par. It's not what a place doesn't have. It's what it does have, and what it offers as a golfer, and something to enjoy. Tell us a little bit about sort of the grass types, and a little bit about Sandy Links as a whole.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. Because I obviously was privileged to work on the old Sandringham site. So I quite often find myself saying, that was the old, fifth tee or the fifth green, whatever it might be. But yeah, now with the redevelopment, we have the Sutton's Mix bent grass on the green. So the exact same green type as Royal Melbourne. And then also the fescue blend surrounds. So you have that nice 20 to 30 metres around the green where you can putt, or you can, do your little chip and runs. And so the public punters love that, because they can putt from pretty much anywhere they want from off the green. And so the fairways are a mix of Kikuyu and the common cooch that was always just in the fairways at Sandringham. And so you talk about the shorter layout, and on some of the tees we have 9 holes of the tees are cooch. Common Sandringham cooch tees, and then we have 9 holes of a rye tea blend. So we went with the cool season grass to something different, and we're sort of playing around with that.
I was going to say, is that a bit of a trial and see sort of scenario? I'm a massive fan of Santarana from way back. I think it's the best versatile grass in the world, but there are some situations where it's not quite the best surface. Is that a trial with those rye blends, rye fescue blend type thing?
Yeah, I think initially it was going to be, we'll just see, how they go. And personally, I think we're going to eventually line plant it with cooch, so that maybe in the winter you've got that, sort of double blend of, you've got the rye still growing, and so that in the winter they'll still look nice and green. So I think we'll end up going with the sort of the 2 grass policy. We may oversow the original Santarana cooch. And I mean, the ryegrass, it's a fantastic looking surface and that, but some days we have 290 golfers, and so they all walk in the same spot. So they're very
doesn't handle that well at all.
Yeah, and they do take quite a bit of water, which at the moment we don't have much of down here in Melbourne.
Yeah.
I would probably wouldn't put it in again as the main tea bed, but I think if we oversow it with the cooch, then it's going to be a very good surface. And as you well know, and you've just said, then cooch is such a repairable. It's so easy. You chuck the sand in it. You don't need seed and all that sort of stuff. So
it's funny because in the mountains I don't know what we did at Katoomba, and there are some other teas and some of the other courses around, but we certainly did Santa Ana cooch on our new stuff, and we did just that. We would oversow with rye fescue. For the winter colour and this, just for it to survive through winter, where it was, going to still have a colour to it.
Exactly.
But when you had that stress in summertime, nothing beats the cooch coming over the top and just being able to survive with it all.
Yeah, yeah. And so, from the old layout, we've taken away the first and the ninth, what used to be the first and the ninth fairway, and that's now become our brand new driving range. And they've got top tracer in the 30 driving bays there. So it's a fantastic facility. It's so very well used. There's not too many driving range bays around here, so it's certainly hopefully will become a lot busier than what it already is, and be able to maintain that as well. Obviously
you're smack bang in the middle of all the best golf courses in the country, and your public access. I mean, how much would I imagine it really is going to be an extremely busy course for many reasons, not only because it's new and people want to experience it, but because you've now got this style and feel of elements of next door Royal Melbourne, which not everyone can get into. Why wouldn't anyone want to be jumping over themselves to get into Sandy Links and experience it?
Absolutely, and like me, I'm very privileged that I get to go and play pennant golf here in Melbourne, so I get to go and play all the great courses here, and I stand on some of those tees at Sandringham, and you could be standing at a Commonwealth or a Huntingdale or somewhere on the par threes, because you just go, look at those bunkers, look at that green complex, and there's a few little undulations, and of course the beautiful green, the beautiful grass selection that we've got. It's just amazing. So we're very privileged.
Spectacular stuff. I love it. What sort of a team do you have in terms of numbers? What makes up Sandy Links for maintenance wise, being a shorter court? We know that in the past you had 3, but obviously now it's quite different. We've got different expectations, obviously, and delivering some product on the back of a serious amount of money, no doubt, being spent. Let's not beat around the bush here. You've got to deliver something at the end of the day. So what does it take?
So at the present time, we have there's 3 full-timers. So myself, my foreman, Jack Lavery, and Colin, who's a full-timer. And then we have rotating staff from Royal Melbourne. So the plan was to be able to let them come over and also experience, obviously, maintaining a public golf course as opposed to a private course. And everything is exactly the same from across the road. So at the moment, we have 3 rotating staff for 2 weeks come across from Royal Melbourne. So six staff in total. Eventually, hopefully, boasting that up to 8 in total. So, maybe at the end of, in another 6 months or so, everywhere at the moment is having a hard time getting staff. So it's just a sign of the times. Eventually 8, but at the moment it's just 6. And, some days with the amount of golf, like I just said, we average at least 240 to 250 golfers a day. So, you get out, you do your morning jobs, and then sometimes you can't really achieve much during the day. So, at the present time,
that's an astonishing amount of golf.
Oh, it is, and some days you have 150, and you think, oh God, it's slow today. So, you're exactly right. You hit the nail on the head before, and I think it was most prevalent when we first came out of the lockdowns, and we here in Melbourne couldn't go more than 5 kilometres, and so a lot of people couldn't access their own golf courses, and so we were so busy at Sandringham because it was public access, because people wanted to go and look at it, but also too, it was the only one available. So we've certainly been busy pretty much from September last year, and it's been just constant the whole time since.
That's incredible. That's just I can appreciate because you guys had a serious lockdown. I've spoken to lots of people in different states, and Sydney was probably certainly more liberal, I think, in that realm when we had a lockdown, that you could still play golf and drive around to your course. But in Melbourne, things were very different, and it did keep people within cooee of their home. So I can understand if you're living sort of nearby Sandy Links and Royal Melbourne, but you're a member of, further afield. You can't drive down to PK, for example, or whatever it might be. That makes it hard. I'm curious to know what makes Sandy Links different to other public access courses. And maybe that's a little bit what we just spoke about. But I don't know a lot of courses in and around Melbourne that are public access. Obviously, we've all heard of the private courses that are, the Metros, the Yarras, the Royal Melbournes. Is what you've got on the ground now with this redesign, I suppose I'm going to suggestively say, is it a little bit where any punter who pays the gate fees to get out there and play a game of golf, are you going to experience the likes of what it might be like to play Royal Melbourne across the road?
Absolutely, exactly the same as Royal Melbourne. Like, our philosophy at Sandy is to keep the greens. We don't want obviously everybody five putting and not being able to hold greens and stuff, but we want that bouncy feel that you'll get at Royal Melbourne. And I think we've certainly achieved that so far, and it's only going to get better, as you fully well know, that as turf matures and you grow everything in to where you want it to, it certainly does excel itself. And at the moment, like, they're very bouncy. All the punters say, "Oh, have you put concrete in the seed? Can you make them a bit hard, a bit softer?" But I guess I'm a little bit biased, because I'll be standing there hand watering and I see it, and I'm not a very tall person, but it bounces twice as high as me, and I go, "Oh, how good's that?" So,
some might say that's greenkeepers' revenge.
Well, they probably do, but again, because I'm a golfer and I want to present the best thing that I can, I just love it, because it is you need to think about your shot. We were just talking about the layout of the course before and how we took away two fairways to become the driving range. But it's a course where you can't hit driver off every tee, because it's not as long. But if you want to hit driver, you can, because you can drive the green or you get in the green side bunker. That's fine. But for the shot makers too, there's some strategically placed bunkers. But if you get the fescue little roll off the embankments on the fescue or up onto the green, you're never going to be far from the pin. And for me, when I first started working in the construction of it, and you could sort of see what was happening, I was like, this is going to be an amazing complex, because anybody can come and play, whether it's a beginner, whether it's a woman, whether it's a guy who plays off 15, whether it's a guy who plays off scratch. We have all the elite high performance guys go out there. And I think to date, the best score is 1 under. They haven't shot any better than that.
Wow.
So, it's very much a true test of, I think, a little bit of links golf. And in the future, and we'll probably talk about this a bit later, about, clearing out a bit of the tea tree and stuff, so you've got a few more vistas. But, it's very much a Sandbelt feel at the moment. Like the fairways are beautiful. There's that browning off of the rough, and you can stand on the tee. And for me and my level of golf, if I can stand on a tee and I can say I can hit 3 or 4 different clubs, how to play the way to play the hole differently, I think that's fantastic.
I agree wholeheartedly, and I think the way that you described, the bounce of the greens and the way that you can putt from well off the greens onto the putting onto the putting surface itself, I think all those elements are, and this is what's such an individual key celebrated part of the Sandbelt in and around Melbourne, where all those wonderful golf courses are. That is the Sandbelt. So we're opening people's experience up to taking that in. We're giving them an opportunity to take that in with this newly designed course. It's got these wonderful elements in it of Royal Melbourne and the other Sandbelt courses that we so famously know. And I think it's just a matter of opening up your mind to it playing a different way than what you might be used to. And certainly here in Sydney, we have a lot of golf courses that have Kikuyu fairways and Kikuyu surrounds and soft greens. I think when you go to Melbourne, if you get the chance to play a Sandy Links or to go actually play Sandy Links, you're going to understand and appreciate the difficulty where we see some of these tournaments that we've had. It might be the President's Cup, of 2019. We see that bounce and we're watching some of the best international players in the world. challenge themselves with how do they land short of the green and let their ball release up towards the green and ultimately to where the hole is, instead of just target golf and landing on a soft bedded green that might have been watered or it's old soils or whatever. This is a whole new opportunity for the public to experience Melbourne Sandbelt golf, isn't it?
Oh, you're on the money, and like people would have watched the President's Cup on TV and gone, gosh, like even the best players in the world can't hold these greens and they're struggling, and so to come to a shortened version of that, you said it was a par 65, and any punter can come and play, and I love it that it's a risk and reward sort of a golf course as well. If you're hitting the ball really well and you're striking it cleanly, you're going to get a little bit of grip on the greens. They're not going to stop dead, but you're certainly not going to, bounce 20 feet high. So I still think if it's a relatively calm day and you're striking the ball well, you'll get around, very comfortably. But then there'll be other days when, you just can't do anything right. So, and that's golf in a nutshell as well. And, as I said, I love seeing all the different levels of golfers, and we have some regular players that come and, you can have a bit of banter with that. But, there's so many people that are either coming to that course for the first time or they're not there from interstate and stuff. And they just go, oh my God, how good is this complex? And so when you hear comments like that and that you're part of that experience and you're presenting that course to them, you think, okay, I'm doing a pretty good job. And, as I said before, it'll only keep maturing and we just, if we can keep our philosophies going and keep, working hard at it, it's just going to be amazing. Another 4 or 5 years and it'll be, again, a totally different course.
It will indeed. Now, Gerri, I'm curious to know, the course so intimately. You're a superintendent. You live on the East Course, which is a stone's throw from Sandy. The place upside down, inside out, and you built it. So you know all the humps and bumps and every blade of grass as it's grown. I want to know, do you have a favourite spot on the golf course that's just one of those picture places where you go, this is, for Sandy Links, this epitomises where we are and what we've tried to achieve here? Do you have somewhere that, as a player, when we come to play there, we can experience that as well?
I think as the greenkeeper in me, there's a mound on the left-hand side of the new 15th green, and it's where the old 16th green site was, and it's a bit of a rise in the landscape, and you look down over a couple of the old holes where we cleared a lot of the area and made a couple of brand new holes, and it's near our dam. And so for me, it's kind of like if I sit up there, if I'm out watching the irrigation or the sun setting, or if it's late in the day, it's a great spot just to sit and take it all in and just kind of like go, this is my baby now, and this is a great spot. As a golfer, I think probably the new double green, holes 5 and 10. They've created a nice big double green, and that's quite a feature now of the golf course. And I remember them as the old 11th and 4th holes. So there's a whole bunch of nostalgia whenever I get out there. And but yeah, this new green, little bunker complex, it's just fascinating, and so that's quite a spectacular new spot on the golf course.
That's cool, and a double green complex is quite unique. It's not. There are a few of them around the country, but it's not commonplace. And if like you said, it's a new element to the course. And I certainly, I've seen a couple of photos of it. And I know it does. It looks spectacular. I think being if you're public access, you don't often get the opportunity to play a double green. So you get down there to Sandy Links, and it's just the immenseness of a double green. It's just, that's not even a word. So I'll just go and say the enormous size. Let's go to that part.
Yeah, yep. And try hand mowing it.
Yeah, no, thanks. I'll leave that to you and your team, Gerri. That's great. Always good to know where some unique spots where you just, like you said, you just take it all in. What's some of the feedback been like from those? This is something I'm curious about, because a lot of clubs, whether they be semi-privates or privates or public, we make them our regulars. We become members because we like the golf course and we want to play it more. And sometimes it's difficult for golf clubs to press the button to go down the path of a redesign or whatever it may be. What have you heard, or what's been some of the feedback from people who played the old Sandringham course and that are now experiencing the new Sandy Links version? How has that sort of come through?
I think it's been overwhelming, very, very positive feedback. We have 2 or 3 social groups, ladies' social groups that play regularly each day of the week, and we have quite a large men's group that comes and plays on a Thursday afternoon, and they love the new layout, and and because I've worked there before, we all quite often talk about the old layout, this and that, and they're like, oh, it's so much better, we love it, sometimes they say, oh, it could have been a little less, not hard, but it could have been a bit easier, I guess, around the greens and stuff. But they're used to, as you just mentioned before, target golf and things like that. And I say to them, oh, it's all about your imagination now, and not the low markers aren't going to win all the competitions. Every punter's got a chance. So I think they're all certainly getting used to it, but very much, and from outside the regulars, everyone that's come and played, I think the most used word I've heard is everyone's having fun. And so everyone's coming there to experience something different, whether you're there to hone your skills, at the driving range, or whether you come there just to have a game of golf. And they've got this great initiative there. I'm pretty sure it's after 4:00 in the afternoon, children are free. So, you quite often see parents and their kids wandering around. They might play 2 or 3 holes. Quite often on a Saturday afternoon, there's dads and their kids on the putting green, the public access putting green. And it's just amazing to see that people that, maybe that are coming in, we were talking earlier about employees and how you guide them in their careers. Well, people are coming to experience the facility there at Sandy for the first time, and, they might be the next pros. You just never know.
Well, you don't. And if you've got an initiative like that coming from the club to say, look, after 4 kids are free, I mean, honestly, how could you not want to be out there? And I was fortunate. I grew up with a golf course over the back fence, a bit like you. I can't claim it was the East Course of RM, but anyway, I grew up. I'm gonna keep using that. Did you know Gerri lives on the back? Yeah. That was our playground. In effect, if we weren't, riding push bikes in the bush and going for a walk down by the lake, or sliding off, rock edges or whatever it might be, we're out playing golf and having fun. And that's what it's kids. It's endless imagination in shot making and entertainment, and you do things that only kids can think of because as an adult, the reasoning side of your brain comes in and goes, "Don't try that. That's just silly. You're never going to pull it off." As a kid, you go, "That's a 1% chance. I'm just going to see for fun. Can you do it, mate? Because I'm going to give it a go." And that's
totally.
you build in this imagination, and it becomes fun, and you get that fun element as you learn the game. I think the game of golf, and that's getting kids into it that age and opening the doors. That's just a great way to get kids involved. And the other thing you talked about there was, the difference in the opportunity of different types of shots for your members and the like. I think the biggest difficulty, if you give a golfer options, if you give them choice, and it's not just telling them to play this shot to this target, if you go, you've got unlimited opportunities to work your way to the hole, all of a sudden a golfer will wig out. It becomes the most difficult proposition in front of them when they go, do I go that? Well, hang on, you're not telling, if you just top and their head explodes. And I just think that's why I struggle with this American style and soft courses and narrow corridors of play. You're telling people that there's only one real way to get there, and you've just got to execute it. If you open it up and people have choice, and it can be limited to, even if it's just 2, do I cut the corner or do I go around with 2 shots? All of a sudden, they need to decide, and it falls on them what the outcome is. And and you can't blame the golf course, which we often hear people say. You can't. It was, at the end of the day, it comes down to the imagination and the opportunities.
And that's the only thing that limits us poor golfers, is our imagination, because we've probably all got the ability, but we just don't try it often enough.
Absolutely. And we often get too scared by it. Let's face it, we have handicaps to try and play to.
Absolutely.
And look, you touched on it before. Tell us a little bit about what the next sort of maybe 12 months looking forward, how you want to help the course mature and help it improve.
Well, in all honesty, I think, when you build a new course, like as you said before, you got all these brand new, whiz bang things and that. And for me, like, I think with a small team, winter's going to be, the time that we get to do projects, because every other time of the year, I guess you're mowing grass and stuff. So, for me, for this coming winter, I think, clearing out a bit more of the tea tree. I envisage that maybe, you pick 1 or 2 holes a year and you completely clear it out, because there's so many great pockets of heathland and so many places where you can see a little vista through to the next hole, or, to the next few holes and stuff like that. So for me, it's going to be, clearing out a bit of the deadwood and things like that, getting the bunkers. Like, as golfers, we always say bunkers can always be better. So, just all the finishing touches, I guess, to, some of the bunker edges and some of the formation of the waste bunkers, which we've got a few of them now at Sandy Links. But yeah, I think for the next 12 months, it's just, really just honing in on what we can do in the next 4 to 5 years. And I speak 4 to 5 years because no one ever knows how long you're going to be at one place, or how long your team's going to be around you. So yeah, I think the next 12 months is very exciting, that there'll be a few different things here and there, but definitely just, I guess enjoying, where I'm at now, and certainly making the course better.
Unbelievable. I couldn't agree more. And just hearing about just getting those details right. And like you said, a golf course opens up for play because it's time to open. It's ready. People want to get on it. We need to open it. And there are the details as even they just mature for the next few months or 6 months that you go, righto, we need to just tidy that up, and that's got to be here and that's got to be there. So that's really good to hear that there's not a lot of major stuff that needs to happen. All that's been done and all that sort of stuff has already happened. So now it's just in the detail finishing as it just matures those next few steps. It's great talking about Sandy Links and the golf course, and I'm probably listening to a lot of the conversation that we've had. I'm going to go to just maybe a couple of philosophical type questions to finish the convo. I hope it's not too deep and not too difficult, but I think these things are probably, they've been bouncing around in my head a little bit as we've spoken. I'm curious to know we've talked about your path in greenkeeping to this point, and you just mentioned just then that thought of, you never know what's around the corner, you never know what's next for yourself. Is there an aspiration for Gerri as a greenkeeper and now as a superintendent for, do you see yourself, looking for, is there a next step potentially in time? And it might be 10 years, it might not, it might be 5. I hear some people say, I really want to be at this level type of golf course. Do you see yourself potentially being overseas, or do you have aspirations like that?
I think when you talk about what I guess what aspirations you have for yourself, but I can honestly see, and I've spoken to a few people. I've done a few podcasts and stuff, and people keep saying this word role model and trailblazer and things like that, and I really honestly would like to see myself maybe mentoring, as well as, still being a greenkeeper, still being a superintendent, but mentoring some of the upcoming women that are in the industry. And, like you sort of mentioned earlier about the superintendents forming a club, but not exactly a club, but, having some support, I guess, and I guess some guidance as well for all the upcoming women. I'd love to do something like, whether it's on the side or whether it's a major project, but something like that, certainly I can see myself in the future doing. And, I look at a facility like Sandringham and, like somewhere like that, you'd love to run somewhere like that maybe one day, like whether it's, once your body gets a bit older and you want to get off the tools, and, like with the management experience I've had. And I think to myself, well, I know the turf side really well. And so, they're businesses these days, so you could do some business courses. But, there are so many options. And like, as I said, I never thought I'd get to this point where I am now. So I think I don't ever want to say I want to be here or I want to be there, because you never know what doors open. But certainly, as I just touched on, something in the mentoring side or the, supportive side of upcoming women, but not just women, but also just young people. Because, I think that if you've got someone to look up to, and I've had many great inspirations, my family, my co-workers, Richard, all these people that, I think, I don't know, I just love giving back to people as well. So that side of me says, yes, definitely maybe something down the track in that.
There you go. What a wonderful answer. Absolutely incredible. And I've got no doubt, speaking to you and hearing your story, as I'm sure everyone listening has now got an idea of who Gerri is, that it's sort of there already. I think you're probably already halfway there without even realising it, to be honest. And you'll probably no doubt have that opportunity to come. And look, that probably does lead me into the next question a little bit. And I didn't want to focus heavily on. Like I said to you before, it's not about hearing your story. It's not about, you're a woman in the industry and this is what you're seen as or whatever. I don't really see it like that. That's just me personally speaking. I see you as just a hardworking person in the greenkeeping industry, and you do it so bloody well. And I'm curious because when I was super at Katoomba, and I can speak about my own experience, we put on a female apprentice. At the time, we had a couple of people apply, and like I said before, it's a small area to draw for employment. There's not a lot of people around, and the younger people there's even less of for job opportunities. And we had a woman apply for our apprenticeship, and you know what? She was so compelling in her interview and what she was going to bring to the job and what she wanted to learn. And we ended up employing her as an apprentice. And I thought, wow, this is turning a corner for us. I never thought the day would come that we'd have a woman part of the team. This is a great opportunity for us as a club. The sad part was for Renee that we lost her to a different industry because we couldn't afford to keep her. She was given an opportunity, if you like. It was nearly paying double. And I just couldn't. What could I do as a superintendent? What could the club do to combat something like that? So ultimately, Renee left. She was with us for I think 6 months or something, and then she said, "Look, sorry, I've got this chance, and they're paying me this." And I'm like, "Wow, I don't know where to go from there." I suppose what I'm wondering, and that's my only little taste in having a woman as part of the team. In your opinion, this is that philosophical side, sort of, is there anything that you think that golf and the greenkeeping industry can do to sort of make greenkeeping more appealing to women for work? I mean, is it something that it's just not talked about that much? We know that there's some amazing junior female golfers around that they will grow up in it, but they'll obviously go to different parts of work. We know there's people like yourself and me, for example, that come from golf that got into greenkeeping in a way. How do we make it, and maybe it's bigger than just this short conversation, but what sort of places do we try and expose greenkeeping to girls, young girls, and to women to say, hey, this is a great career choice. This is a great opportunity it's a lifestyle choice. It can take you anywhere on the earth, as we just mentioned before. How do we expose them to that and give greenkeeping that option to them to choose for work?
But I think you listening to your story as well, it's always hard to compete against, the money side of things, because I think greenkeeping is such a passion and you want to get into it because it's something that you think you'll love. And people quite often ask me the same question that you've just asked me. And like I think about offering scholarships and all this sort of thing. And personally, like you don't want to alienate and just, exemplify that it's just a woman's scholarship. So I think a lot of the time too, it is just actually getting, I suppose, people like myself and any other women in, like even the general manager. There's a woman at Eleanor Golf Club, Kathy Nagel, and like I've spoken to her just about golf in general. And I think it's just about getting the word out there that you just have to go and experience it, because hard slog to get into it, and it is a physical job. But nowadays, you're part of a profession. Nothing in the actual physical side of things that you can't do yourself. So I think it's just getting the word out there that it is a passion. It's not just a job. It becomes part of your life. And I guess you're right. If people like myself and other leaders in the industry, and especially women, just I guess promote it. And the apprentices that I know and the young ladies that are going through greenkeeping, they're all just like me. They wanted to have a go, and they just got in and did it. And I think local golf clubs and probably people that play golf, because it can be quite a flexible pathway. If you want to play golf, we're very busy. 6 months of the year in the summer, and then in the winter we're not quite as busy. So there's all these opportunities for people to maybe have a flexible career, and maybe it's something they really want to do, and I think people just need to experience it.
I think that's a great what you're just saying there is probably the best way to just open up that conversation and get that bit of experience out there and get people, to talk about it more and hear about it. And what you said is, there's opportunities to do so with people like yourself, as you mentioned, with a bit of mentoring in the future, whatever that may hold, that you could be part of, and opportunities may arise. And I think it could be a corner of the industry, the greenkeeping industry. Personally, me talking about it is, I think it's something that we're going to see grow. I think there's an opportunity there because we know the other part is we're short on labour. Every person in the industry you talk to, we're short on labour. So I think we're going to see a little bit of a turn here, and I think this is probably going to be the beginning, because if you I won't say alienate, that's a bit of a harsh word, but if you're not looking at 50% of the workforce, because it might be your old mentality or whatever it might be, if you're cutting out 50% of the workforce, yet you're screaming that we've got no one applying for jobs, I think you probably need to have a good, long, hard look in the mirror, maybe. But I think there's an opportunity there personally, and I look forward to seeing it grow. And I think it's a way forward for the industry. Gerri, look, it's been absolutely fantastic. It's been a wonderful pleasure and a privilege to have you on the podcast, on the Golfing Greenkeeper podcast, as a superintendent to be keeper of the greens. I thank you very much for your time. It's been enthralling and fascinating to chat to you about your story and how you came to be superintendent, and also about the wonderful new Sandy Links that anyone can go and experience. And I think it's been a wonderful insight to those two fields and your life as well. So I appreciate your openness, I appreciate your honesty, and I appreciate you telling us everything that you've come across in your career and all about Sandy Links as well.
Oh, thanks, Stephen. I'm just absolutely, it's been a pleasure to have this opportunity to speak with you, and you're very welcome anytime to come in the backyard here and have a beer with me, and we'll peruse the golf course, and then I can take you for a tour at Sandy Links. So
wonderful stuff. Thank you very much, Gerri, and I appreciate your time, and look forward to catching up one day soon.
Take care. Thank you.
Wow. Just wow. How cool is Gerri O'Callaghan? That was so much fun. We could have spoken for a long time, as you could probably tell, about all sorts of things to do with her career, to do with golf, to do with greenkeeping, to do with Sandy Links. Right, it doesn't matter. We could have just spoken for a long time. I think you get a real sense of just how in-depth a person Gerri is, how great an operator she is, how well respected she is, her experience getting to where she is at Sandy Links, taking over at the helm of Sandy Links. I mean, what a future that place has. What a future Gerri has. And on the back of that conversation, I look forward, and I did mention there at the end, I look forward to seeing the industry of greenkeeping get more women involved and start to see them out there working on golf courses and being part of the maintenance team. And I don't see a reason why not. And I really think that that's something that we'll see before too long. We're going to see those numbers increase. But look, Gerri's just a fantastic person. I didn't know Gerri before I called her and asked her to join in the podcast. I'd heard throughout the industry that she'd taken over the role as superintendent of Sandy Links, and that was it. I just needed to speak to Gerri. And she's mentioned that she was been on some other podcasts, and there's an article written about her in Turfgrass magazine, which is an Australian greenkeeping industry magazine, about her history and so on. But when I'd heard about this position, I just needed to talk to Gerri and to hear her story. And look, I hope you really were entertained by it. I hope it was really insightful for you, and you got something to take away. Least of all, an insight into one of the best female greenkeepers we have in the country, and certainly Sandy Links as well. So, guys, look, thank you very much for listening and taking the time out. Please like, share, subscribe. Please pass this one around, because the more people that hear about Gerri's story and the more people that hear about Sandy Links and what its future is going to come to, I think is going to be a very big positive for the industry on both of those fronts. And I really would implore you to do so. So please help me out in sharing this one around and getting it out there to the wider golf audience. I think most people are going to be interested and intrigued by Gerri's story. So please like, share, subscribe. And also, please, like I say, please don't forget to leave a review. I would really appreciate that one as well. Feel free to comment, feel free to DM me, message, whatever you like. Happy to chat as always and happy to talk. And like I say, I appreciate you taking the time out to listen. Thank you once again to Australian Turf Analysis for helping me and for partnering with my podcast to bring to you more of these stories of Keeper of the Green. So don't forget to get in touch with John Legg at Australian Turf Analysis, www.australianturfanalysis.com. As always, guys, you hit them clean, we'll keep them green. You have yourselves a great week, and I look forward to catching up with you next Thursday.